She answered me right modestly, I am me mother's darling, lift me to her, I found a little diary, found a little area. And when you come to me mother's house, when the moon is shining clearly, and when you come to me mother's house, when the moon is shining clearly, for I'll be there to let you in, and devil one shall hear us with me to her, I found a little diary, found a little area. And she took me horse by the bridle and the bit, and she led him to the stable. And she took me horse by the bridle and the bit, and she led him to the stable. Then there's plenty of oats for the soldier's horse to eat it if he's able. With me to Raya, found a little I found a little area. Then she took me by the lily white hand, and she led me to the table. Nice and easy. How will I get up? And I made the bed and I made it nice and easy. Then I get up and I laid her down. Said, Nancy, are you able with me to ride off? Found a little diary, found a little area.
I gathered out 10 of the previous sound recordings I could find. You will hear a part of each audio clip listed. All clips will be linked in the description. Serial killer David Parker Ray would force his victims to listen to a tape once they woke up in his terrifying sex dungeon. Ray would hold women in his expensive lair that he referred to as his toy box for months at a time, and was suspected of having killed many victims. This isn't the original recording, but rather a transcription read out by a YouTuber who posted it on his channel. It is very dark and disturbing.
Hello there, bitch. I come right.
When will we be married? And when will you return again? And when will we be married? When broken shells make Christmas bells, and then will we be married? With me to Ryan, found a little diary, found a little area.
This was actually around the same time period when the first known recording of a human voice was produced. That was in 1860. The phonautograph is the earliest known device for recording sound. It was able to record sound, but was unable to play back any sounds. Sounds recorded using the phonautograph are now able to be played by optically scanning the recordings and using a computer to process the scans into digital audio files. Perhaps some of you have heard of Yuri Gagarin, the first known person to travel into space. But what if he wasn't? This is a supposed recording of a Soviet space flight in 1961. In it, a Russian woman can be heard complaining about the increasing temperature inside the craft before it is destroyed attempting re-entry. If this is indeed real, it's horrible to imagine the horror that the woman was put through, on a mission that was most likely known to be a one-way ticket, as she came to realize she was completely doomed. While we're on the topic of space, Did you know that different planets give off different sounds through radio emissions? But they're not as pleasant as one might imagine.
Loving you, not wisely but too well. Your sin was letting me and getting me in your spell. Our sin was a love that could not be. Now my sin wanting you, though you forgotten
36, 45, 44. 37, 36, 35, 34, 33, 32, 31, 30, 29, 28, 27, 26. 21. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
If you could only see one film this year, make it a 12-hour movie.
Uh-oh, those kids are after me, Lucky Charms. But thanks to me red balloon, I've made a clean getaway. Well, looky there, a shooting star, and it's heading this way. A deserted island. Well, at least I can eat me Lucky Charms in peace.
Wow, they're marshmallowy delicious.
Oh no, more kids. I've got to get away. But how? There's a big star-shaped hole in my balloon. Maybe there's an answer in me magic rainbow. Let's see. Moons, hearts, diamonds, stars. Oh, did I say stars? Magic rainbow, make a match. Turn that star into a patch. Take me away, star balloon. Whoops.
Kids, now for the first time ever, it's a marshmallow inside a marshmallow.
The star's in the balloon. Wow. Doubly delicious.
It's the magical part of a complete breakfast.
New in specially marked boxes of Lucky Charms.
Look, on the lily pad. A leprechaun. Catch him. Catch him. Catch him. Catch him.
They always catch me. 'Cause I'm as green as me clover hat marshmallow.
Oh, Lucky, we're getting closer.
They always catch me. What if I had a new great green clover? Blend right in.
Oh, Lucky, we're getting closer.
They always catch me.
We gotta find Lucky.
They're always after me, Lucky Charms. The chase never stops.
Got that right, Lucky.
Marshmallow power. Double me luck. They're always after me, Lucky Charms. The chase never stops. You can double your luck with Lucky Charms. Part of a nutritious breakfast.
They're magically delicious.
Part of a nutritious breakfast.
Catch a pack of Lucky Charms. Charming. Catch a pack of Lucky Charms. Lucky Charms. Catch a pack of Lucky Charms. Charming. Catch a pack of Lucky Charms. Lucky Charms.
Save the rainbow.
It's as colorful as marshmallows in me Lucky Charms. Keep rainbows from fading away. Fading away. Fading away.
There's Lucky. Catch his Lucky Charms.
You just ran out of luck, Lucky. Ran out of luck.
A little luck and a pluck. Got him.
They always catch me.
We gotta find Lucky.
stop.
Got that right, Lucky.
Marshmallow power, double me luck. They're always after me, Lucky Charms. The chase never stops. You can double your luck with Lucky Charms. Part of a nutritious breakfast. They're magically delicious. Part of a nutritious breakfast. They're magically delicious.
Faith, and good afternoon, everyone. Don't worry, this isn't coming from Ireland, and it isn't an attempt to interfere with anything. It's just a St. Patrick's Day edition of 106.9 FM. Taking a look at the news headlines, this from the Irish Times, from Dublin, if I'm not 100% uncertain. More than 500,000 people lined the streets of Dublin to celebrate the St. Patrick's Day Festival, which was themed Imagine If, as a celebration of the future. The festival was the final installment of a 3-year creative thematic series celebrating the past, the present, and the future. This year looked at the future of the Republic as seen through the imaginations of young people. Close to 3,000 performers participated in the parade. Cork native and disability rights campaigner Joanna O'Riordan held the honorary position of Grand Marshal. She said afterwards it was an absolutely amazing day and an experience she would, quote, never forget. Ms. O'Riordan received a standing ovation from President Michael D. Higgins and his wife Sabrina as she passed the grandstand near the start of the parade route at Parnell Square. Organizers estimated that 510,000 people took to the streets to enjoy the creative presentations from Irish artistic groups including Spreanói, Artastic, Irish One, Carnival Group, City Fusion, Dacha, Bullblog, DIT, and Brighter Futures. Bands from the USA, the UK, Brittany, and Ireland provided the music for the parade as it traveled past some of the most famous and historic landmarks of Dublin. 10 US marching bands were welcomed from 9 different states. There was a big cheer for the crowd from the Berkeley Police and Fire Departments who arrived from California to march in memory of the victims and survivors of the Berkeley balcony collapse last year. In what was a first for the festival, it adopted a theme tune. Award-winning Dublin songwriter Pete St. John composed the celebratory tune March to Dublin, and it was described by a spokesman for the festival as a declaration of the welcoming spirit towards visitors. It is an all-inclusive invitation to embrace and enjoy the history and culture of our city and the banks of the magnificent River Liffey, he said. The festivities were the start of 4 days of events and street theatre, which will take place around Dublin over the next few days. St. Patrick's Festival Chief Executive Susan Kirby said the parade had been a huge success and it was watched by millions the world over. Every year we continue to be impressed by the vision of artists seen through their parade creations and performances, and this is no different, she said. The festival parade is a true testament to the artistic talent we have here in Ireland, talent that is showcased on a global scale today as the parade is viewed by millions the world over. Many thanks to all of you who came along to enjoy the day, and we hope many more will enjoy the full program of events and festival. It has the festival has over the coming days. A spokesman for the Graddag said that there have been no major incidents in the city during the parade. I'm sure there were minor bits and bobs, but nothing major, he said. Other stories you might want to read on the Irish Times. Tens of thousands all over Ireland for St. Patrick's Day Parade. Ghosts of 1916 take center stage at the St. Patrick's Day Parade. Most overseas visitors ever expected to see for St. Patrick's Day. An Irishman's Diary, 40 Shades of Self-Promotion, 7 Things to Do on St. Patrick's Day without booze. For example, cereal.
The chase never stops.
Got that right, Lucky.
Marshmallow power, double me luck. They're always after me, Lucky Charms. The chase never stops. You can double your luck with Lucky Charms. Part of a nutritious breakfast. They're magically delicious. Part of a nutritious breakfast. They're magically delicious.
Look, on the lily pad. A leprechaun. Catch him. Catch him. Catch him. Catch him.
They always catch me, 'cause I'm as green as the clover hat marshmallow.
Oh, Lucky, we're getting closer.
They always catch me. What if I had a new great green clover?
The legend of Loftus Hall has its strange birth on the westernmost part of Europe, in Ireland. In the southeast corner of this island, the waves of the mighty Atlantic Ocean crash upon its coastline. It's there that you'll find a lonely peninsula of land that stretches out into the cold grey sea. Out at the far end of this pointing finger stands one of the oldest lighthouses in Europe, Hook Head Lighthouse, and it stood there in the 18th century when our odd tale began. Indeed, it was this lighthouse which drew a ship onto the shoreline this cold, dark night. A black boat that came right up to the dangerous rocks where most boats would fear to venture. A boat from which a silent, cloaked passenger stepped out onto the earth and began to walk. Further inland stood another old building, though not as old as the Hook Head Lighthouse. This was Loftus Hall. Loftus Hall was a grand building, a structure that commanded the surrounding area. Inside the body of the building were rooms and hallways and doors, some of which hadn't been opened or walked through in years. Loftus Hall belonged to the Tottenham family. Charles Tottenham was the man of the house, a wealthy landowner who enjoyed the finer things in life and hated the wet and the drizzle of the long Irish evenings. In order to pass the time, Charles liked to invite some friends around for a weekly game of cards. On this particular evening, the gentlemen were assembled once more to play a hand of cards. Suddenly there came a great pounding at the main door of the house. Charles Tottenham looked at his guests. In the name of the Lord, who's out on a cold and dark night like this? He hurried away to the front door to see who might their visitor be. As he returned to the parlour, he announced, "Gentlemen, we have a visitor." There stood a stranger, a young man, all dressed in black cloak and hat. He looked back at them. Though his face was young, his eyes had a cold hardness about them. One of the gentlemen leaned forward. "Oh, welcome you are. It's a cold night you're out and about, stranger." You're not from around here, are you? Oh, well then, Charles Tottenham said. Will you play a round of cards with us, sir? Oh, well then, sit yourself down. The stakes are low. We only play for our own pleasure, to pass the time away. A little money just to keep it interesting. And they sat and they played. The three gentlemen and the silent stranger who won the first game and took their money, and won the second game and took their money, and the next game and the next, on into the night. And then something happened. It was just approaching midnight. As Charles Tottenham tried to decide which card to play next, he dropped one by accident. Without hesitation, he reached under the table to pick it up, and as Charles Tottenham spied the cloven hoofs of the stranger, he realized that this was no ordinary card player. They were sitting playing cards, the devil himself. The stranger stared back at him, and realizing he had been found out, he flew into a rage. Through the ceiling, then breaking through the roof itself, and out into the sky. He left this man never to be seen again. Charles Tottenham and his guests lived to tell their tale, and a true story it is too. To this day, the hole remains there in Loftus for all to see. And if you ever visit the southeast of Ireland, be sure to visit Hook Head and Loftus Hole. But if you do, a word of warning.
Couldn't room for two, couldn't room the way, couldn't room for two, and you in the day no dowsody. Day no dowsody, day no dowsody, day no dowsody, no dowsody. Spochen ma suste, spochen ma suste boy, spochen ma suste, kann ich noch tun die Koi. Day no dowsody, day no dowsody, day no dowsody, no dowsody. Spoken in near and near, spoken in near and far, spoken in near and near, the dear to Cali not see the ground. Dilly no dust, dilly no dusty, dilly no dust, dilly no dusty. Call me source, call me source and ocean, call me source, and your mission was some more. Dilly no dust, dilly no dusty, dilly no dust, dilly no dusty. Dilly no dust, dilly no dusty, dilly no dust, dilly no dusty.
It was the Celtic Druids who started the shamrock on its path to Irish glory. The Druids believed the number 3 to be a perfect number and, as such, to have inherent mystical powers. No one is quite sure why they believed this, but it's possible the numbers signified totality, i.e. past, present, and future, or sky, earth, and underground. Whatever the reason, the Celts attained great significance to the number, and that is clearly expressed in their artistic symbolism. 3-headed faces appear in art relics, as do Trixlies, 3 connected spirals, and Trixlions, 3-legged symbols which are adapted by the once Celtic Isle of Man. In addition, the Celtic society was organized around the sacred 3, with 3 classes, 3 colors, and 3 principal gods. In this atmosphere, it is no wonder that the humble shamrock plant, with its 3 leaves, was revered. St. Patrick, when he set out to convert the Celtic inhabitants of Ireland, would have been fully aware of the predestination for the number 3, and according to legend, he used the plant to illustrate the Christian concept of the Trinity, i.e. to show how God divided into 3, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. It is worth mentioning that this story of how the 5th century saint explained the Trinity did not appear in any manuscripts until after the 18th century, when a visiting Protestant minister noted that locals wore a small bunch of the plant's leaves on their hats on St. Patrick's Day, the 17th of March. Whether or not the story of St. Patrick using the shamrock plant in his teachings is true doesn't really matter, because by the time it was reported as truth, the Irish had already chosen it as their symbol. It appears on medieval tombs and on old coins, and a written reference dating back to 1681 describes it as a badge worn on the lapel on St. Patrick's Day. But by the 1770s, it had certainly been adopted as the emblem of the Irish Volunteers, a militia with Republican sympathies. This is where it came to be associated with rebellious, nationalistic views and led Queen Victoria's government to forbid all Irish regiments within the British Army to wear shamrock in the 19th century. These days, a member of the British royal family presents shamrocks to the Irish Guards Regiment, so it seems the dear shamrock plant has been rehabilitated. and Irish Ghost Story. Tyrone and Lady Bresford. The first of the ghost stories that we are happy to present is perhaps one of Ireland's most famous. Lord Tyrone was born John de Poor, and Lady Bresford Nicola Sophia Hamilton. The two were orphans, reared by an unbelieving, that is, atheist guardian, who constantly tried to convert them to his atheist views. Because of this, the two made a vow to each other that whoever died first would reappear to the other in order to prove that there was life after death. In the course of time, Nicola married Sir Tristan Brelaford, eldest son of Richard, Earl of Tyrone, and of Lady Dorothy Ennisley, daughter of Arthur, Earl of Anglesey. One night she awoke, terrified to see her foster brother standing next to her bed. He told her to be quiet, and said he had just died, consequently reminding her of the vow they had made many years before. He advised her at some future events, one of which was the coming death of her husband, and the subsequent remarrying. He told her she would have 4 children, and that following the birth of her last, she too would die on the day she turned 47. Lady Beresford sought confirmation that her brother's appearance was real and not a dream. At this, Lord Tyrone grabbed her by the wrist, and it immediately shrank and withered. This deformity remained with her for the rest of her life, covered by a black silk ribbon she wore to conceal it. Lord Tyrone's predictions all came to pass with the exception of her death at 47. On her 48th birthday, Lady Beresford decided to celebrate with a few friends, including a clergyman who was an old family friend. "I'm 48 today," she exclaimed. To her dismay, the clergyman replied, "No, my dear, you're only 47. Lady Beresford was shaken. "Are you sure?" she asked. The clergyman assured her he was, as he had been looking at the regular only days before. "Then you have signed my death warrant," she cried. She retired to her room, made out her will, and died later that night.